Central 365, wherever you may be watching or listening. My name's Luke Slabaugh. That's the man, myth, and legend, Ethan Hannaford, here on this August 2nd, talking about the St. Louis Cardinals on their road trip to San Diego, coming off a 4-1 loss last night. Ethan, saw you taking it in, live tweeting the same time I was. How are you digesting this new era, new chapter of the season for the St. Louis Cardinals?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow, is it not? I mean, yeah, I talked about it last night on the Card Central post game show. You have two teams that are going in the exact opposite direction, and I'm not gonna lie, looks a lot more fun and exciting to be on the other side of it right now. The Padres, we know how aggressive AJ Preller gets to be at the trade deadline, and you look at all the pieces that they added. Man, talk about risk, but there's some excitement and some fun with that as well. Will it 100% be guaranteed to work out? Not necessarily, but you have to respect them going for it. And they were obviously they're set up in a much better way to go for a much better spot than the Cardinals. So I'm not in any way advocating that John Mozeliak and company should have been aggressive and bought. But I'm just saying it looks fun to be on that side right now. So the approach right for this Cardinals, obviously the goal is still to win for Ollie Marmol and his clubhouse. But from the outside looking in, right, you look at it and you say, well, you're much more so looking down the road here and seeing what are some of these young pieces that are going to get some more opportunity now that Ryan Helsley, Phil Maton, and Steven Matz are gone, as well as Nolan Arenado on the IL. Who's going to get more opportunity as a result, and who's going to take advantage of it and make themselves stick out, whether it be to up their trade value for the offseason or to make themselves a contender, right, to be in the 2026 opening day starting lineup.
Right. And to your point, this is kind of a patchwork bullpen now. The Cardinals have
Yeah.
gutted the bullpen, having traded Steven Matz, Phil Maton, Ryan Helsley, and they gave some younger guys or more inexperienced guys a little bit of runway last night. Started with Matt Svanson, who, while giving up a couple of hits to give the Padres ultimately their 3-run lead in a 4-1 loss, we also saw Gordon Graceffo and Ryan Fernandez uh, put up some scoreless innings. So a bullpen is something that I think you can build on the fly. And
Totally.
when you're looking ahead to 2026, as it appears Heim Bloom and this Cardinals front office is, this is a really good runway for some pitchers to step up, and to your point as well, young position players to put those big boy pants on and make a mark.
I think when we've talked about this a lot on STL Sports Central shows this year, while it is not a guarantee, right, that this is going to be a smooth process, right? I mean, anytime you go from the three guys that the Cardinals had, three veterans that have been around for a long time, have had success in this league for a long time. There's going to be some bumps in the road when you go from that to guys that lack experience and haven't quite learned to consistently be successful at this level. So there's going to be some bumps in the roads, but throughout the season, I have talked about how encouraging the Cardinals' amount of depth from their bullpen has been this year. I think it's been one of their biggest bright spots, and I think it's going to play out pretty well in a time like this. That doesn't mean that the Cardinals bullpen is just going to skip a beat and everything's going to be completely fine, and there's not going to be, like I said, any sort of drop off between the talent, right, in Ryan Helsley and Matt Swanson, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's a lot of guys, and there has been throughout the year, guys in their opportunities have performed well enough to make you think and feel, yeah, I feel pretty good about the amount of bullpen depth the Cardinals have right now. You wish that you could turn some of that bullpen depth into rotation depth, because that's right where they're so thin right now at the minor league level. So, I'm excited to see some of these guys get opportunity. I'm excited to see Jojo Romero continue to look to get more closer opportunities. Although Ollie Marmol did say that because he is a lefty, that is going to alter how they use him, meaning that he's not going to solely be the closer, it looks like, because he is a lefty. especially with John King being on the injured list now. Jojo Romero, obviously, he was the he was the number one lefty going in, but even more so of an important role now. But I mean, Riley O'Brien, I'm excited to see him get some high leverage opportunities. Same with Gordon Graceffa, who in his last 5 outings has looked significantly better. I mean, new Gordon Graceffa, when you look at 5 outings, you're saying it's only 5 outings. Well, when those outings are so stretched out over such a substantial period of time, and you're going back and forth to the majors and the minors between so many of them, I think it is really encouraging to see that ERA slowly begin to dip a little bit, and his stuff looks good up there. Kyle Leahy, I'm excited to see what Kyle Leahy can do. I'm curious if the Cardinals might try to stretch him out another time or two. We saw him throw nearly 50 pitches in Colorado a couple of weeks ago. So there's definitely some things to be continuing to look at as far as the minor leagues go. It's not like this is a wash and it's going to be an absolute disaster. It might be. It might be at times, right? But I feel pretty good about how these guys, I think, are going to use some of this opportunity to impress. And I think fans will be pleasantly surprised with some of these guys as well.
I want to thank you all here tuning in here. See you live on the YouTube chat. Tuning into Card Central 365, forgot to mention off the top, powered by Gray Bar, presented by DraftKings. You use the term, Ethan, full out disaster or disaster. And that is how I would describe the tail ends of the fifth inning last night. Left-hander Matthew Liberatore was putting together a really solid outing and had really good feel for his pitches. There was one at bat where he kind of lost the grip on the curveball a little bit, hit Luis Ariz on the top of the bat right over his head.
Yeah.
But otherwise, Libby was going tit for tat with Nick Pivetta, the standout right-hander for the Padres, who's now up to 11 wins this season. Fifth inning starts really good. Wilson Contreras, fastball up and in, cranks it to left field for his team leading 15th home run of the season. 23 innings, scoreless streak broken for this Cardinals offense. And the perfect game also broken against Nick Pivetta. And then Wilson Contreras giveth and he taketh away. He's very much the Gary Sanchez of first baseman, it looks like, because that play, I saw you tweeting this live. My reaction was a little bit of WTH, and just across Padres Twitter as well. The ground ball. You mentioned Nolan Gorman getting an opportunity at third base, playing his natural position with Arenado on the IL with the shoulder strain, and 1 out in the fifth. First walk given up to Jake Cronenworth, and then what is a challenging ground ball to Nolan Gorman with his momentum working against him to get this throw out to Wilson Contreras at first base. That play just avalanches. It collapsed into absolute madness. I want to hear your thoughts on it, and then I'll give mine because I think we're on the same page here. But what could have been a very smooth fifth inning for Matthew Liberatore went off the rails after just one play with 2 errors.
Yeah, unfortunately, by the end of the inning, kind of felt like the game was over. When you look at how the Cardinals offense has performed the last 2.5 games now, maybe up to 3 games now, when you look at the full amount of innings with a lack of run production, as well as how dominant Nick Pivetta had looked, piled on with how dominant now, especially after the additions, this Padres bullpen is. So it kind of felt like with that combination of all three of those things that this game was over at that point. Yeah, I mean the throw was a little bit up the line towards home plate into the batter that was running towards first. So it wasn't the best throw, but it's a throw that Wilson Contreras tends to be able to haul in, and the ball gets past him, and now there's runners at first and third, and for some reason Wilson Contreras decides to throw it to third. I don't know if there was a play there. I mean, it didn't look like there was, in my personal opinion, but he throws it, he spikes it, and it goes past 3 infielders, and all of a sudden you're looking at a little league home run situation now where the that I'm not. Did that tie the game or did that give them the lead? I don't. I think that tied the
Tied
game.
the game.
Tied the game. They
Yeah.
did not score 2 runs on that, but it set the inning up, and it felt like that was the point where everything began unraveling. And as a starting pitcher, a young starting pitcher, that's tough to go through. Is all of a sudden, bam, you're pitching well through 4 innings, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, your one mistake unravels everything. So Matthew Liberatore now has to try and put the pieces back together, and unfortunately, he's just not able to. Not really. The walk obviously is on him, but the rest of it's not really his fault. I mean, a couple of bloop singles. I think the exit velos were 76 and 84 miles per hour on the 2 base hits that he gave up, and then he gives up the after the 10 pitch at bat to Tatis, he gives up another walk. So a frustrating inning for Matthew Liberatore. And I was frustrated, right? Because we've talked about, the microscope, at least for me a little bit, is going to be on these young guys. I want to see how they perform. And Matthew Liberatore, it felt like, was robbed of the opportunity to go another inning or two against one of the better teams in baseball. And for you to really walk away with that saying, okay, Matthew Liberatore got back on the right track tonight. I think you could still say that to a certain extent, but when you look at the total line score compared to what it could have been, 6 innings of 1 run ball looks a lot better than 4 1/3, 4 runs allowed, 3 of them unearned. So frustrating inning. Bad decision making from Wilson Contreras to throw that ball, and a very uncharacteristic bad defense leads to the Cardinals and eventually losing this game.
Right. The thing that stood out to me was you got Jake Cronenworth rounding third base, but that's any base runner's uh, obligation is that if the ball is careening out of play or if it's not possessed immediately, like, yeah, whenever you're advancing on a single or any sort of hit, you're around the base if there's not an imminent play there. The thing that stuck out to me, excuse me, was the timing. It felt like it was a beat, 2 seconds off. It was like,
Yeah,
you're listening to Black Sabbath and Bill Ward is out of tune or out of beat, just like one step at a time. And you're right. This is skipping rocks across Creve Coeur Lake. Like this was, it was a catcher's throw. It was a throw in behind the runner type of scenario. It was a catcher playing first base there.
yeah,
And for someone who is in the conversation for the Cardinals' best player, it seemed unbecoming. And to your point, only one earned run charged to Matthew Liberatore, who's pulled after 85 pitches. Probably the right call by manager
totally
Ollie Marmol, if I'd say get him out of there. Libby's
agreed.
got a rubber arm. Obviously, he could have gotten out of that jam and has the wherewithal to do that. But Swanson struck out Machado, unfortunately gave up a 2-run hit to Jackson Merrill to give us that final score of 4-1. Second block ahead. I want to say thank you all for tuning in here to Card Central 365 on the Saturday morning. We are brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Download the DraftKings Pick Six app now and use the code STL Sports. That's all one word, STLSPORTS, for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick Six credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick Six from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick Six not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick Six credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com/promos.
The Cardinals fall to under 500 for the first time since early May. And you mentioned a former friend of ours and former Cardinals manager Mike Schultz at the top of the show. Credit where credit is due. The Cardinals offense in the front office in the late 2010s gave Mike Schultz Nolan Arenado, gave him Paul Goldschmidt, gave him Marcelo Zuna. Last night, all I'm thinking is, man, trade deadline to pass. And for AJ Preller and the Padres front office to give Mike Schultz all these toys, Mason Miller, Ramon Laureano, Ryan O'Hearn, and others that I'm probably forgetting at this moment in time. These are two teams on a completely different direction. And the Padres, sell out their crowds on a nightly basis. They got 40,000 strong in this state fair environment. In my opinion, the best stadium in baseball right now in downtown San Diego, where you could go to Omni, you could go to Coronado, you could go to La Jolla, do a whole bunch of things with the family. And yet, the Padres, in a smaller TV market than St. Louis, are pushing their chips in for what they hope to be a postseason run and a deep pennant run.
Helps when your mic is unmuted, doesn't it? This is a team right now that is bought in, right? And as mentioned, when you make the product fun and exciting, fans are going to in large times, obviously depending on the market, but especially in a market like San Diego, they are going to give you the love back, right? And they are going to go and pay to watch the product. And right now, the San Diego, the last several years, right, this San Diego roster has been built around superstars, right? So there's your first check mark, right? Is there's superstars right now that are enticing you to go. You add into that where they are right now, having won, I think, now 6 straight games, post trade deadline, just making a bunch of big additions. And yeah, this is a place you want to be. This is where the party's at. Seems like their stadium ops have also done a really good job of making it an environment that you also don't just have to be sitting in your seat to be able to take in the game and be a part of the environment. They had a bunch, and I know ballparks are moving in the direction the Cardinals have as well. But you got the standing areas, right, where you're more so socializing while having the game on in the background. That tends to be the direction that a lot of these ballparks are moving in, and the Padres are doing that well, and they most certainly were. This most certainly was working well last night. Like I said, they have me jealous. I wish that the Cardinals could be in more of a position where this is where what things were looking like for them right now. Unfortunately, it's just not where the ball club is right now. So it's going to take some time, and I know people hate saying be patient because that's all that you have heard the last couple of years, and that's the last thing you want to hear at this point. What I will say is this: what I am excited for, right? What I'm looking forward to, on top of seeing some of these young guys get opportunity and get to prove themselves worthy of being on this 2026 opening day roster. Right now, the Mozeliak regime is it's stale. You know what you have in them, you know what the pattern has been. Even though I think that at times people have been way more critical of John Mozeliak than I have, while he has obviously made some huge mistakes that have set up the Cardinals to be in the position they are right now, it does not fall solely on his shoulders. Bill DeWitt, I think, has to take just as much responsibility in this as well, being that he's the one signing the checks, right? So it's not solely on Mozeliak, but there's definitely a huge chunk of this that is on him. There's good things he's done in there in the mix as well, but all to say this: right now you are so close to being in the new. You're so close to being behind Bloom and being in the future, right? Where it feels like all of a sudden you're going to perhaps get a change in approach, a different mindset. And I think fans are very ready for that. And I am too. So I feel like right now, these last couple of months just feels a little bit stale, because you just continue to lose. You just sold off these pieces. And there's just a couple of months where you have to wait to do anything before you really get things going in the off season. So I'm looking forward to a little bit of a refreshment, right, as far as the change in leadership goes. Nothing personal against John Mozeliak, more so just looking towards the future and being excited, hopefully, about the direction that things can go.
It's the cycle of any major sports team. After 20 years, you would like a new voice or something fresh. And we even talk about player development, that the machine that was the Cardinals farm system slowed down a little bit in recent years. They've promoted some really good prospects and they've got some youth that have come up. And performed at a high rate, not enough to get the Cardinals over the hump and back into the postseason for an extended run. I have fond memories of 2022, but it fizzled out relatively quickly. We carry on and we move ahead towards tonight's game as the Cardinals look to even the series against the San Diego Padres. It's a 9:10 first pitch on FanDuel Sports Network Midwest. It is redemption time for Michael McGreevy, coming off what is fair to say was his worst outing as a starter, going 4 2/3, 7 earned runs given up to these very same San Diego Padres at Busch Stadium. You keyed in on that game a little bit more intently than I did. Any takeaways from Michael McGreevy's last stretch against the Padres?
Now, this is a guy that's going to continue to lean on contact, soft contact, right, to get outs. Very similar to Andre Palante. This is not a strikeout guy. It's a very Cardinals-esque type pitcher. And there's going to be some good that comes with that, and there's going to be some bad that comes with that. So, obviously, I would love for Michael McGreevy to come back out tonight and respond. I think he is going to. He is from this area in Southern California, so he's going to have a bunch of family in attendance. So hopefully he has that behind him tonight, backing him, supporting him, and that he pitches with a little bit of an extra spark as a result. So I'm excited to see Michael McGreevy throw tonight. Attached with that, right? This is a guy that is young and is learning what it looks like to consistently pitch at the Major League roster. The next couple of months, you're going to get your Michael McGreevy every fifth day starting pitcher out there. That's what you're going to get. There's going to be some good with that. There's going to be some bad with that. Michael McGreevy, yes, he's the shiny new toy right now in the sense of you finally got the young starting pitcher into the rotation. It's not going to be as simple. I hope it is. I don't expect it to be as smooth and simple as it was throughout the end of 24 and a good portion of 25, right, where he would come up and make that spot start and look pretty dang good. Teams are going to be able to start learning how to hit him, how to make adjustments, and he's going to face some challenges. It's going to be all about how he responds to the adjustments made by the opponent. So I'm excited to see him get this extended opportunity, but by no means do I expect Michael McGreevy to be by far a top 2 pitcher for this team. I think him being a 3 or a 4 is extremely realistic right now for the Cardinals, and which isn't great when you look at what their rotation has been, but I think that's what the expectation needs to be for Michael McGreevy right now. Giving him anything higher, I think, is unfair to him at this point in his career.
Let's place all our hopes and dreams on Quinn Matthews in 2026. The counterpart for McGreevy is right-hander Randy Vasquez for the Padres, 3-4 with a 3.65 ERA. That will wrap things up here for Card Central 365 redemption outing for Michael McGreevy. Also, be sure to stay here on YouTube. Tune in for Blues Central. I believe that's what it's called. Ethan Hannaford. You got some fun stuff cooking up on today's show, yeah?
Yeah, we're going to be recording here pretty shortly, and I'm imagining the episode will be out later today, maybe tomorrow, probably later today. And we have a big name guest joining us. Big name guest, former NHLer, former Blue. So be keeping your eyes peeled for that on the YouTube. Turn those notifications on. Like and subscribe us right here on YouTube, STL Sports Central 2.
You heard the man. Like, subscribe, have yourself a wonderful day, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow for Card Central 365.